Sambas janju jinju do zimna rinpoche jebara sabdabde simbara saate yara kitab dhimbe goni kanki jebara saate jebara jase janju simbe jobalan juwa yungzan yinje no rinpoche tawa lejan checher do laban dini jebara jebalan delayang yeja yama yebadan yezang yebani le yeja Mujo batila yang janju simjo rinpoche majiba na jijo je jiba nyamba meba ya kongni kongdo. Pewara sho ji sumba yin sanju ge sim rinpoche majiba jibara sebe leo sun, jiba menyamba jeba leo sun menyamba kongni kongdo pewa leo sun. Yung hoa da membe leo jidan jide yung leo juye rang yin sa je ye kongni jeba jeba la. Good afternoon. Before we start actual teaching discussion, and I would like to remind you to give rise to motivation, which means to make sure that you have a genuine motivation from the teacher side and also student side, both sides. We should generate genuine motivation, genuine intention as much as possible, especially particular teaching is based on Bodhisattva's way of life, Bodhisattva's path, Mahayana teaching. It is very important to have motivation that thinking about all sentient beings. So generally we know that there are different levels of motivation. Whatever action or whatever activity we do, if it's ordinary work or study, we have to have some sort of commitment that until I have achieved or finished this school or job, I wanted to put my diligent effort. And also if it's a practice of Theravada or Hinayana, the lower vehicles of Buddhism, we have to generate the intention that until I reach my goal, which is our hearts, as the highest level, I wanted to follow all those necessary rules especially avoid 10 negative virtues and try to cultivate as 10 positive virtues as much as possible. Even in order to be born in a human realm, or we call it in samsara, we have 3 upper realms and 3 lower realms. In order to avoid and prevent to be born in lower realms, to born in higher realms, we also have to have these, we have to apply conditions, causes and conditions to involve in positive actions, avoid 10 negative virtues. So here our aim is actually way beyond all these things that I have just mentioned. Our aim is to achieve enlightenment, and not only we, the practitioner, achieve enlightenment, but also the whole purpose of achieving or practicing the Dharma. And I want all sentient beings to liberate from samsara and lead them to state of omniscient enlightenment. So that kind of intention is the best intention, the most pure, authentic, the proper for practice of bodhisattva path. So we wanted to remind that kind of intention over and over, because sometimes, even though we know it is very important to cultivate such intention, motivation, but sometimes we tend to forget things. It's when it becomes some sort of the practice, and going to the temple and chanting and meditation becomes some kind of our habit and culture, and then sometimes we miss these important points, important aspect. It's always these intentions are more with our mind and thought. That is always carried by these mundane activities, and our hopes and fears always take to different areas. So we always have to bring them back, purify, analyze them, and see if they're correct and pure and in the right direction. It's always important. So last 3 sessions we have discussed what the importance or benefit of the bodhicitta, and the second one is the confession and generating, accumulating merit and purifying our negativities. And the third one was continuation of accumulating merit, as well as receiving actual bodhisattva vow, and how to receive bodhisattva vow. That was really important, because in order to practice the bodhisattva, bodhicitta, the bodhisattva way of life, we do have to have that vow, So in the last section we discussed how to take the vow, and also what would be our intention to take a vow. So the next one is the second part of the 3 main category, which is the first 3 one was the how to achieve bodhicitta. So the next 3 chapters are how to maintain bodhicitta that you already have achieved, and then the last 3 chapters are how to develop this bodhicitta. So this first one is basically this bodhisattva way of life teaching is the Shantideva taught based on 6 perfections, because the 6th perfection or 6th paramita is the main the practice of Mahayana and bodhisattvas, starting from the generosity, discipline, patient, diligent, concentration, and wisdom. These are we call an Parudichimbatuk in Tibetan, 6 paramitas or 6 perfections. But here actually the next chapter is it's more about discipline, ethics, but it's not really completely moral discipline. So it's the title of the next chapter. It's called carefulness. In Tibetan word, Bhagyu means aware or careful. Take caution, I think. aware of the things, what is happening around you. So basically, as ordinary beings, the one of the main problem for us is a lack of carefulness, because when we have so much of lack of carefulness, and then we end up having all these negative emotions. When we are not being careful, then our mind it's easy to carry by the negative emotions. So when our mind and thoughts carried by negative emotions, of course, then it brings all kind of consequences. So that's why it's very important to have carefulness. In Buddhist teaching, we have 3 different levels, and as we know, Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana, and each tradition have their sort of precepts, their vows that you can take. So basically, the carefulness is the best way or best method of keeping your vows, or whatever vow you have. But here in particular teaching, we're not mainly talking about Vinaya vows like monks and nuns vow, and also not so much of vows of Vajrayana, Samayas. But here more we're talking about Mahayana vows. After you receive the Bodhisattva vow, and how you should maintain the vow that you have received, how you should keep it, how you should develop it. So these chapters have, all these chapters are saying the first verse is is the abbreviation of whole chapter. So then the next one will be the details. At the end, also the very last verse is usually also another way of abbreviation of the whole chapter or conclusion. So here we are looking at the sentence. How do you say it? Sentence? Verse? Verse number 1 is the abbreviation of the whole chapter. It says, Garisi Chiteta or Chanchuk Simrap Tinzona Yawa Mepa Tatu Yang Lablimandam Beparsa. It means as all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and great masters in the past, however they kept their Bodhisattva vows, however they have a carefulness with their mind. So whatever vows that they receive, how they kept without damage. So we also should do the same way, or whatever way that they have done, with our diligence. So then we go to next verse, verse number 2. So that's actually detailed explanation of the whole chapter. So the chapter is Shantideva divide into sort of 3 parts. So the main purpose is the carefulness. So these carefulness divide into 3 parts. So the first part is how we should be careful on the discipline and ethics and vows that we have. And then the second one is carefulness on how carefulness on the base, which means the precious human life. And then the last carefulness is on how to remove our negative emotions, afflictive emotions. So the first verse is how we maintain, how we protect our vows. Papjol zamba kangimba kangjik lipar matapa tene tamja sejer jang jawa tang hita breaks. So when you read this translation of root text, is it easy to understand? It's a pretty straightforward. I think the Bodhisattva way of life, this teaching is until we reach to the 9th chapter, which is talking about emptiness and interdependent and so on. But until we get there, and all very straightforward. So there's not really complications, sophisticated things that are hard to understand. So this chapter, this chapter has actually 48 verses. So we will just, go brief, try to explain little by little. So when we receive Bodhisattva vow, we have some commitment. So our commitment is until we reach enlightenment, we wanted to benefit all sentient beings through practice in 6 perfections, which is followed by the genuine motivation, genuine intention. It's always very important. We have to have the pure motivation, intention, and then that follows with the 6 perfections, 6 paramitas. The 6 paramitas are the main practice of Bodhisattva. So when we take Bodhisattva vow, basically we are taking commitment. We are some sort of accepting. When we take a Bodhisattva vow, we are claiming ourselves as, Bodhisattva or Mahayana practitioners, and who take a commitment to practice on this path to benefit all sentient beings. So, and basically in this verse, what it's saying is whatever we commit, whatever you promise to do, and we have to follow our promise. So when you promise things to do, of course we have to be careful what you're promising, So by learning and by receiving the previous chapters, now we are in a point that we have a confidence that what we are going to do by practicing the Bodhicitta, So, and also in Buddhist teaching, Buddhist practice, there's no practice that doesn't have any sort of reason, So every, either it's compassion, loving kindness, every aspect of the practice have a reason behind, an explanation. When you do something, first we need to know why we're doing this, what would be the benefit, and what are the consequences if we don't do this, So these things we have to understand clearly. So in terms of this practice of a bodhisattva, in the past Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they have studied, they have analyzed, they have practiced it, they achieve their realization. It's our example, our model for all those past Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and great masters. And then for us, and also we have done quite listening and contemplating on this. So now we have some sort of idea what will be the benefit of practicing on this. So So now we understand this has a tremendous benefit of practicing on bodhicitta. Now we're not going to just easily give up. Once we already taken our first step, and we're going to forward. And we're not doing this with blind faith. We have no idea what we're doing, but somebody just told me and I should do it, and then I'm going to that direction. It's not like that. We have discussed it, we have listened and contemplate, and we understand quite well. So now that's why, and it's a time for us to really practice, So next verse is verse number 4. So when we take the Bodhisattva vow, and again we took our commitment, until reach enlightenment, I am going to benefit sentient beings directly, indirectly, practically or intentionally, one way and another, and I wanted to benefit other sentient beings. We already took that commitment. Once you have received Bodhisattva vow, here we are in studying. We didn't really take Bodhisattva vow, but we studied how to take a Bodhisattva vow. But once you take Bodhisattva vow, and then you have to act that way. You cannot give up sentient beings. So, in a lot of Buddha's teaching says, even if you are thinking in your mind to do something for somebody, give something to somebody, and then you don't do it, even that kind of intention have consequences, the bad result. So now we took a commitment of benefiting all sentient beings until reach enlightenment. Then if we don't do it, and here says, you don't have to even mention it, how bad negative karma that we are creating. It says there's no way that we achieve enlightenment if we don't follow what we said we're going to follow. So the next verse would be the verse number 5. It says, even if you thinking to give, let's say an ordinary gift, Christmas gift, you didn't even buy it, you just thought, okay, I'm going to buy a cup to my friend as a Christmas gift, and then later you think, oh, I'm not gonna do it anymore. It says even if you have that, you didn't tell anybody that you're going to do that, but still you already thought it. You already not only thought it, you already decided in your mind, and then you change your mind. So it says basically you're going to be born in hungry ghost. No, hungry ghost. What is it? Yes, hungry ghost. You understand? In English, did you say the same thing? Yeah. If in the teaching it says that those who in their thought intend to give a small and paltry thing, but then draw back, will take rebirth as a hungry ghost. Okay. So what it telling is, it's not really. It's telling that whatever we promise, whatever we think that we should do, and then you are going to do, you should do it. That this is what it means. And then the next verse, the verse number 6 says, means in Bodhisattva practice, what you did is, you already promised in your mind all sentient beings, not for one person, not for two people, not for 100 or 1,000, but the sentient beings has no limit, as the space is no limit. So you promised limitless sentient being that you invited them as your guests, that you promised them that you're going to take them to, a state of enlightenment. So now if you don't do it, it'll be big crime, So if you do such a crime, how would possible you to achieve enlightenment or bodhisattva? So the next verse number 7. So sometimes, these things are very subtle. Some karmic subtle things are hard to understand. In this verse it says, sometimes some bodhisattvas or practitioners, even they give up all sentient beings somehow, yet they achieve arhat or bodhisattva. How would that possible? That is coming from the story Buddha's attendant Ananda, right? So Buddha's attendant Ananda, he was arhat, and then later he went to a place. There was somebody asked him to give him his arm, and then the Ananda cut his arm and then handed to the person with his left hand. So in India, in Tibet, if something handed by left hand, it's a disrespect, then he was very upset. You're insulting me because you are handing with the left hand. That's so insulting, disrespect. And he didn't take it. So Ananda thought, oh, it's not easy to benefit sentient beings. It's not easy to cut your arm, but I did it and give to him. But instead of appreciating, he didn't take it. So Ananda basically gave up, and he says, okay, I'm not going to practice. I cannot continue this bodhisattva practice anymore. But then somehow later Ananda achieved bodhisattva, Ananda achieved arhat and bodhisattva. So sometimes, because Ananda have created so much positive virtues, even though he gave up once upon a time, but before he have so much, bodhicitta and compassion and practices. So he achieved his realization later. So these subtle things, it says, only Buddhas who have a complete omniscience will understand, because it's in this situation of karmic cause and effect too subtle for ordinary people to understand. So we are in verse number 8. Tene jangjuk sambala tongnam de jiwate. Datar tene jungjona senjin kunje tuela min. As a bodhisattvas, so biggest, the most heaviest, breaking their precepts, not vow, is to giving up the sentient beings, giving up the benefit of sentient beings. If you give up benefiting sentient beings, then basically you would not be able to act as a bodhisattva. You won't be the genuine bodhisattva, bodhicitta practitioner. And the bodhisattvas cannot give up. They would not give up the benefiting sentient beings. Somehow, if you have to give up, will be the worst breaking vow. So also it says not only that, if you disturb bodhisattvas and also create a negative karma, because bodhisattvas' activity is to benefiting sentient beings, if you disturb them, then the bodhisattvas cannot benefit sentient beings. So as a result of disturbing the bodhisattva's activity, will be born in lower realms. So when you look at the next verse, verse number 10, so usually if you create a suffering for one person, even the consequences of that will also bring suffering for ourselves. Whoever is actually creating that suffering for others, as a result, you will have a pain and suffering for yourself. So, when you disturb bodhisattvas, bodhisattva's activity is to benefit countless sentient beings. Then your disturbance or obstacle, the problem that you are creating for bodhisattvas, that will affect his or her action that benefit countless sentient beings. So therefore, the negative karma that will arises from disturbing bodhisattva is no need to mention it. Means huge. And then the next verse, when you look at the verse number 11, if you have a question, says maybe if you have sometimes like negative karma and disturbing bodhisattvas, it's okay, then we can generate the pure practice motivation again. Maybe that's right, but then that will delays you to achieve your realization, your achievement. So in order to achieve your bhumis, it will take the time extend. Because I'm not spending too much to discuss in these verses, because they are very straightforward. It's just explaining the fact. There's no complications, not hard to understand. So when you look at verse number 12, the first part of verse number 12, so because of all these reasons, whatever you promise, whatever commitment you take, you should follow it, you should practice. That's the first two lines, and after that first two lines, and then the second line studying the next part. So these emphasizing on diligent, emphasizing on discipline, diligent, tundu, the carefulness on diligent, which is the action. And it's starting with the saying, if I don't put effort on my carefulness, and then the negative emotions grows. Every little cause and conditions can increase our negative karma. So that will make us, worse and worse, meaning being born in the lower realms. If you're in human realm now, if you don't put diligent, if you don't practice, don't listen, contemplate and meditate on teaching, and then the next lifetime we will be born in lower realms, and then after next we'll be born in the worse ones, because once you're born into lower realms, there's not much opportunity to practice the dharma and upgrade. It goes down and down. Yes.
Saving us from the lower limb. So if I go to the lower limb, will you come for me to save me?
So the next verse, the verse number 13. Simji tamche penze be sanje tamin de jorkyang dal rangi nibeti soju yor majorto. So now in the past, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, there are so many Buddhas, Bodhisattvas in the past. They achieved enlightenment, achieved their realization. Those Buddhas have a limitless compassion, limitless power. Yet, those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have not saved us, have not protected us. We are still in samsara. So what is the reason why we are still in samsara? That's because we did not follow the proper path, and our negative karma and afflictive emotions, we never try to avoid them, try to abandon them. It doesn't mean the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have no power. It doesn't mean they don't have a compassion. It's like there are sometimes incurable disease, If you have the incurable disease, then it doesn't matter how many doctors, how many the medicines that they have, but it doesn't, the problem is that your negative emotions, it's already incurable. So you are the only who have the ability to remove it. Anyone else. That's why, Buddha said, the Lord Buddha says, I am Buddha who achieve enlightenment, who achieve ultimate realization, free from samsara, achieve every quality, abandoned all false mistakes, obscurations. I have the full power to do anything I want, yet I cannot pick you up from the samsara and drop you in enlightenment, and Buddhahood. Why? Because the only thing that I can do is I can show you the path, how to get there. And it's up to you whether you take the path and to go to the destination that I show. So sometimes we feel like Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the great masters, whatever problem you have, and you ask you pray and you ask them to protect the blessing, then everything will be fine. But that's not the case, because Buddhism, we don't have any external God who have power to create everything, and everything that exists here, it's all coming from cause and conditions. That's why Buddhism, we say karma, cause and effect. External thing, the outer world, inner sentient beings, physical body, mental, everything is coming from its own cause and conditions. So that's why every individual created different cause and condition, therefore they have a different result. If there is a Buddha or God who has a power to create everything, the Buddha may have created same 7 billion human being with the same size, same weight, same wealth, same face, and same hand, same arm. But that's not the case. What you have is a result of what we have done in the past. And what we are doing right now, it's a cause of what we're going to get in the future. So that's why, basically, even Buddha is very powerful. He cannot do anything. Only thing that he can do is he can show us the path. And he said, the suffering of sentient beings, I cannot wash with my hand. I cannot remove with a special method. But only thing I can do is to teach, show the precious Dharma that I found. Not only I found, but I have practiced it, and I have achieved realized. I got the realization by practicing this teaching. I know it's so wonderful, so precious, so therefore I can show you, and you all have the ability to practice, learn and practice, so you can do it. So that's what he said. So next one is the verse number 14. Basically, it's continue from the previous verse and saying that if we continue like this, being ordinary, being carried by negative emotions and a desire and hatred and ignorance, nindu nedan kiwatan jedang shaso nyoren jurors yang yangdo. Again and again we will be born in the lower realms, again and again. If we continue this means, and here it's saying that how bad these negative emotions are, afflictive emotions, and how precious are bodhicitta, compassion, loving kindness. But now we know, and the negative aspect of our thoughts are something that is always problem, they're cause of suffering, and we need to avoid. And then compassion and loving kindness are the cause and conditions for our happiness, something that we can practice, we can cultivate, we can achieve happiness. So yet, if we are still ignoring with our lack of carefulness, so then we will be born in lower realms again and again. So the next verse is verse number verse number 14 is just finished. So the next one is studying the carefulness on precious human life, and we have already mentioned the precious human life in the first chapter, but because it's so important, it mentioned again here. So this the carefulness on precious human life. There's a two part. The first one is thinking about how difficult to achieve this precious human life, and then second part is how difficult to free from these negative emotions. No, how difficult to free from lower ones. So then here is when you look at verse number 15. So we mentioned here, in order to be precious human life, the precious human life means the proper life that has all conditions to practice the Dharma. So we have to have a 18 qualities. We mentioned the last time. It's here. It says appearances of the Buddha in the world. There are 5 qualities has to arrive from others, and 5 other qualities that has to achieve from ourselves, and then there's 8 things that we have to free from. So the 5 qualities that has to achieve from others, it's starting with appearance, the Buddha, and then Buddha turned the wheel of the Dharma, and then you follow the teaching. There are actually 18 qualities. There's no detailed explanation of those, but we know what they are, and we have discussed last time. When you look at verse number 16, so now we have that precious human life. We have every conditions to practice the Dharma, but if we don't practice the Dharma, having this precious human life is not enough. It says not only we have precious human life, but also we have all other conditions. We have no obstacles, and every necessary things that we need is here. But the life is not going to stay forever. It's of course everything in Buddhism is impermanent. Everything is a subject to change, momentarily change. So therefore there are so many obstacles and so many cause for the death, and much more cause for the death than cause to live. Sometimes even cause to live becomes cause to death. For example, we eat food, to live. But if your food get poisoned, by eating food, and sometimes you take a wrong medication. The purpose of taking medication is to live, to survive, but then that becomes poison, they kill you. There are many obstacles, many causes for the death, but the living causes for the living is not that many. And generally the life that we have is like a rental. It's borrowed from somebody for temporarily. It's like a guest. And a lot of teachings it says guest. The guests come and stay there 1 or 2 nights, then it's gone. You won't be there forever. So the life that we have, and we know it, the time goes so fast, I've been here in already 19 years. I thought it was 9 months. Feels like a 9 months, but it's already 19 years. We know the time is just flying. It says it's just like a rental, gas. When you look at verse number 17,
It's
said there's a mistranslation, and I want to make sure that the word is healthy and well. Is it healthy and well?
Where is it? Which one?
In English, it says I'm hale and well, but I just want to make sure the Tibetan word is healthy.
I'm sure.
It's probably healthy.
Hell and well doesn't go together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just spells like.
So which verse? Verse number 16?
Number 16, it says, today indeed I'm
Oh, what is
hale
hell?
and well.
Hail is it is a word. It does mean healthy. When you say,
Does mean healthy?
there's an expression, must be an old word, but there's an expression, I'm hale and hearty.
Yeah.
I have never
Okay.
heard that word
That's
before.
hale.
Wow.
But it just means, I'm big and strong, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering what word that would have applied to in the actual Tibetan written ones.
Which number? Which number?
Page number 16.
She felt it is maybe
Yeah, no sickness. And in Tibetan it says no sickness, no harm, enough food, enough sun, you know.
okay. So
Yeah.
it just sounds like it's a phrase that the translator enjoyed. Yeah, I've never heard that phrase ever.
So when you look at page, the verse number 17, if I behave continuous like this, and then next life, even I won't reborn in human realm. Because human realm, in order to be born in human realm, of course we need to practice. At least we need to avoid 10 negative virtues, and we need to cultivate the 10 virtues. That requires at least this. So if we don't do anything, if continue our bad behavior carried by our reflective emotions, you know, our anger as always, and hatred and jealousy and competition and all desire, we will be born in lower realms. If you don't get a human realm, human birth, and then lower realms like animal, hungry ghosts, hell realm, they don't have any opportunity to practice the Dharma. And the only actions they have is all negative. So now goes to verse number 18. So when we have such a wonderful opportunity to practice the Dharma, and we have a precious human life, we have all the conditions to practice the Dharma, yet if we don't do Dharma practice, so the result for the next life will be suffering, because we will be born in hell realms or an animal or hungry ghost. And once we are in these lower realms, there's no opportunity that we have right now. So therefore, we should understand that this opportunity is very rare, and now we have it and we should use it. When you look at verse number 19, Gewa Majela Tipata Nyersana Karpachawa Dindu. Again, if we don't practice the Dharma, continue involved with our negative actions, negative karma, and in the future and many eons, many eons, we won't even hear the sound of happiness or achievement, realization. You know, dendo, even human life or God life or demigod life. These three upper realms are considered as dendo, means happy being, happy life, blessed. Tana dendo zaya tobar minjers. the verse number 20. So when we talk about the precious human life, so there are three reasons why the precious human life is so difficult to achieve. The first reason is because it requires so much cost, you know, and condition, which are practiced on 10 virtues and avoiding 10 negative virtues. And the first one is the cause, and the second one is the example. You know, Buddha made the example of how difficult to achieve human life. He says, the example is there's a huge ocean, and in that ocean there's piece of wooden block, maybe that, you know, same size as that table, which has a hole in the middle. So the wind blows this wood, you know, the wave carries this piece of wood block east to west, west, north. It goes everywhere in the world, you know, Atlantic to Pacific, and you know. And then there's a turtle, blind turtle underneath the ocean, comes up every 100 years. So the turtle's head going into the hole of the wooden block. It's still possible, but it's very, very rare, right? So achieve precious human life, human life is just as difficult as that, you know, the blind turtle's head going into the hole of the little wooden block, that going, you know, traveling everywhere in the huge ocean, like, you know, 200, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 miles. And that the blind turtle comes up every 100 years, not every day, not every month, not every year, every 100 years. So then the number is, of course, I think we mentioned last time too, when we look at this earth, how many lives, how many living beings, the unlimited beings in the water, in the air, and you know, are everywhere under the earth. But human being is the smallest number. We only have a 7 billion. So when you look at these parts, you will understand how difficult it is to achieve precious human life. So the next one is starting how difficult to free from lower realms. And what Buddha says, if you how do you say, if you do even small negative action, it says you will be born in hell realms for countless eons, you know. But then here, and we, from the beginningless time, we are in the samsara. During all those times, we have created so much negative karma, directly, indirectly, you know, knowingly, unknowingly. So how would possible for us to achieve higher realms or bodhisattva or enlightenment? It says impossible if we don't act right away. Okay, next verse, 21. 21? No, 22. So then it says, those negative karmas that we have created in our past, maybe they will slowly disappear. It says no, the Shanti Deva says they will not have disappeared. So what happened is when you are in lower realms, you have the result of negative karma that we have done in the past. And also when you are in lower realms, when we are in lower realms, at the same time we create negative karma. So therefore it will never get out of lower realms if we don't do practice now. Verse number 23, so then it says, when we have such a precious opportunity with a precious human life, if we don't do practice, if we don't use that opportunity to make ourselves better life, happier life, so to achieve enlightenment, to achieve higher realms, to achieve bodhisattvas, this would be the most what do you call it? What word is it? How more could I betray myself? Yeah, it says it's betraying ourselves. So gogor tang yores. Kompar majena del luba yemi then del mumbai yem. That would be the most stupid thing. Because now we know, it says, now we know that we have such a wonderful opportunity. If we practice the Dhamma, we just have all the conditions already present. Yet we are not doing. That means you're betraying yourself, you're fooling yourself and being just stupid. And when you look at next verse, 24, karte dag te to ne mumbe chi jen ji lo na chawran jo tu ji nyang chi budang jo. So when we understand this circumstance, if we don't practice the Dhamma, we will born in lower realms. Once we're born in lower realms, they have all those sufferings, unbearable sufferings. But we know this, still, it says, Jilog means I will do later and later. But because our life, death, doesn't wait for us, so end up you're delaying, would be so much problem, because that happens to all the practitioners, and we know that we're not gonna live forever. As a Buddhist practitioners, we know that if we don't practice the Dharma, when we die, we will be born in lower realms. But yet, I'm not ready to practice the Dharma. I have lots of other important things to do, First, I have to finish my education, then I have to work hard and get settled and, earn enough, and then I will do my practice. But you spending so much time with doing all this, and actually in our life, there's almost never a time that you feel that now you have enough. You have achieved what you look for, you are a success in your life. Now you are ready to practice the Dharma. Now, because our ambitious mind always wants something more and more, that never fulfills completely our mind. So that means how we completely lose opportunity to practice the Dharma. So when the uncertainty death arise there, then it's too late to do the practice, the Dharma, right? So that's how it happens for the practitioners. We say, okay, I study for next 25 years, then I work for next 25 years, then I enjoy for next 25 years, then I'll do Dharma practice for next 25 years, but you're not going to live for 100 years, you know. So why all those are happening? It's a mungpe means it's out of our ignorance. Because if we have enough wisdom to know the reality of samsara, to reality of impermanent, to understand, to know that death is certainty that it will come, and uncertainty that when it will come, you know. If you have enough wisdom to know all these, see these, then you wouldn't delay your practice. You will practice whenever you have opportunity. When the death comes, it's too late, then we are upset, there's nothing else you can do. So the 25th verse. So when you are born in a hell realm, you know the suffering of hell, the suffering of heat and suffering of cold, those are unbearable, right? We have 18 different types and different levels of suffering of hell. But when you are in there, when you really experience the suffering, then you regret that you haven't done Dharma practice while you have those great opportunities. But even if you regret, it's too late. You cannot do anything anymore. So next one is 26th. So again, it's similar. So now it's saying again, you are actually doing it intentionally. We know how difficult to achieve precious human life. When we look at the costs and conditions that requires, when we look at the examples, when we look at the numbers, we know very well how difficult to achieve this precious human life. We are aware of those things. And now we have this, somehow we are fortunate enough to have this precious human life. But yet, you didn't use it. You didn't use for the meaningful purpose. So you just ignore out of your carelessness. So you are now dragging yourself into the lower realms, such as hell and hungry ghosts. That means basically you did that intentionally. Nobody forced you to do it. You have all those opportunities to practice Dharma, get out of lower realms, get out of samsara, achieve enlightenment, but you just ignored. So the 27th, what is benumbed?
Made to feel numb. You can't sense anything. Your sense of
It's like
your sense of touch is gone.
it's like drunk.
No.
Numb.
Like stupid.
Numb.
No.
You can't feel.
No?
Hypnotized.
Frozen.
Basically, if you take away the B at the beginning, it kind of means the same thing. I am numbed by sorcery. I am bewitched by sorcery.
What is sorcery? Sore?
Magic, evil magic. Like someone is like cursing you.
Black magic.
Like
What number is it, please?
black magic. I don't know, black magic.
Like magic.
Like Milarepa.
Yeah, again, you see, when you look at this verse, it's by knowing all those situations, understanding, and still you are taking in that direction, is you are drunk, or you are, like black magic,
Yeah.
or cult, somebody, so that you are out of your mind. You lost your thinking. You lost,
Hypnotized, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Basically, it's what it really saying is, now you know all this situation, yet you're not doing it. So are you out of your mind, or are you drunk, or are you stupid, or that's what it really means. So the verse number, okay, the next one is now carefulness and based on the afflictive emotions that need to be abandoned. So that has 3 parts. The first one is the faults of afflictive emotions, and then difficulties of abandoning afflictive emotions, and then the method of abandoning afflictive emotions. So the first one is the faults of afflictive emotions. Afflictive emotions, of course, it includes mainly the anger and desire and ignorance. These are the 3 main poisons. Then it has affiliated ones like attachment, hatred, jealousy, greedy, and all those. Hedang sikso danam ne kangla la so yemena panjang meya jishi taras. So now we're talking about afflictive emotions. So afflictive emotions are so powerful because they are taking us wherever they want, and we are out of control, right? So when Milarepa said, when your mind is controlled by external appearances, it's agitation. When your mind is controlling external appearances, that is meditation. So here what happening is external appearances are controlling our mind, right? So how they're controlling our mind is because these 3 poisons, desire and anger and ignorance. So basically our enemy here is these 3 poisons that are the real enemy that we have to destroy. So until now, these enemies, we have been servant for them, to our enemies. Our enemies are controlling us. The way they're controlling us is not that they're coming with the weapons, swords and guns and nor that they are very powerful. Strong, and they'll beat us, they'll lift us and throwing us, nothing like that. But they are so manipulative, right? They talk so nice to us. It's like, look at this. Wow, it's so beautiful, that thing, you know, the LV thing, you know. It is so wonderful. The shape, color, design, and quality, and then the, you know, the owner and where it came from. So wonderful. And then you're like this, you know. We are like that. So similarly, you know, like that's our anger, how our attachment, and then similarly our ignorance and our anger and hatred, and also similar, they slowly manipulate our mind. So that's why we cannot destroy them with our, you know, guns and or weapons or stone or beat them. So we have to find the solution. Te da ki da tin yin se da ki sem na ne yin de gangar dala ne se pa te la yang ma cho ma zu pa. So these are our biggest obstacle, that they gave us ultimate suffering, you know, suffering that we never be able to get out of. They are, you know, giving us that suffering. Yet we love them so much. We are servant for them. Whatever they said, whatever our anger tells us, we are ready to do it. You know, let's say if you hate somebody, I mean, if somebody says something bad to you, and then your anger tells you that this is so bad, you know, and then you're like this, you're running, go there and fight. But it's not easy. And that person will probably, that person, when you fight with that person will not destroy your anger. And they will beat you, and you know, still it's not easy, but you'll still be able to be patient for those difficulties, just to make fulfill your anger's wish. So this is how our negative emotions are so manipulative, and they're so clever, that they, you know, they're so sneaky, and they exactly know how they, you know, manipulate us, our mind. That get similar. So they are sitting in our heart. So for our life, the best place for us is our heart, you know. The heart is the most precious thing that we have, but they live in our heart. They use our heart as their home. So who are they? They are our biggest enemy, but they live in our heart. They're creating so much suffering and problem all the time, yet we are trying to make them happy every day, and you know, we sacrifice so much to make them happy and pleasant. Please, we have so much patience to make them happy, and they act like our Lord, our sponsor, you know, our boss. The doggy team. So when they create so much problem and suffering, we are so patient. You know, whatever they do, we can, for us, no problem. And still we are ready to do whatever they ask us to do. So they are the worst enemy, because you know, we as ordinary being, we have enemies, you know. Everybody have one way or another, some kind of, you know, dislike enemy and stuff. But no matter how bad they are, even like the whole world is your enemy, all the gods are your enemy, demigods are your enemy, everybody become your enemy, still they cannot take you to lower realms. They can destroy you, they can beat you, they can make you poor and everything, but they cannot, they have no power to make you born in the lower realms. It says they have no power to put you burn in a fire of hell. Did they say that? All these God, demigod together came against me as my foes. They would be powerless to throw me down in fire of hell. Okay, yeah, but only enemy that can do burn you in the fire of hell is our reflective emotions, our negative emotions, that we've been working so hard to make them pleased and happy. So these enemies that we have, they are so powerful. If they are physically existed, they can burn the bone marrow in 1 second, no problem. That much power that they have. So now they are sitting, enjoying in our heart, the temple of our heart. So we should be able to, we should work hard to get rid of them from our mind, because they make you born as lower realms, and also they are stopping us to achieve higher realms, to achieve our hearts, to achieve bodhisattvas, to achieve basically happiness. The ultimate happiness is achieve enlightenment. Buddhas and bodhisattvas, they are the biggest obstacle, or they are blocking our entrance into this higher realms. So whenever we have opportunity, we should try to get rid of them. As soon as you see them, as soon as you feel that they are coming, that they are using, they are manipulating you, you should try to eliminate them. So these enemies of our reflective emotions, they've been with us since we're in the samsara, from the beginningless time, creating all those problems, stopping us to born in higher realms, achieving bodhisattva, achieving Buddha. But if we don't get rid of them, they will continue to do the same work that they have been doing endlessly. So these enemies are they stays forever. If we have an enemy that can steal our things, that rob us, but these enemies can come once in a while, and they can rob us once or twice, they can beat us once and twice, but they are not with us permanently. So then their attitude, their quality is so bad. Usually, even if your enemy, if you always do good things for your enemy, eventually enemy will change their mind and starting to liking you and to helping you. If you give something all the time to your enemy, and then slowly enemy will like you. But then these negative emotions, those enemies, the more you serve them, they become worse. You know, if you do something good for them, they'll do something bad for them. They never do anything good to you. So therefore, they will be the worst enemy. So next one is 34. Tetari yunin jucha darachuba nuiba tsogam perwa jochipu dagi nila nibar ne chana korwa jimi gawa kala jororo. So those forever enemy, the permanent enemy, who create unbearable, unlimited suffering for all us. They have done that in the past, and they are going to do it in the future, and they are doing it now. Yet they live in our heart. If they continue to live in our heart, so we have no hope for achieving enlightenment. We have no hope for achieving bodhisattvas. But it is very certain that we're going to be born in lower realms over and over. So 35 and Corbett Summa Nyaso Susi Himar Chabantadana Cartel Lone Chapatan and Devakala, yes. So they are keeping us in samsara. They are guide, you know, that we are not as a guard. You know, they're keeping us in samsara, where there is so much suffering, suffering of health, suffering of hungry ghosts, suffering of animal, suffering of everything. So they are making sure that we don't get out of this suffering. They built huge fans, and then each door, they are each enemy, like at the one door, the anger is always sitting there and make sure we don't get out. And another door, the desire. Another door, there's hatred. Another door, there's ignorance. And with the most powerful weapon, that we try to get out, they'll cut your head like this. So we can't get out. They are working so hard and keeping us in samsara. So if we continue to stay in this samsara, we don't have to mention that we won't have any happiness at all. "36. Tetara chesi dag dag unsum da nipar macho tesi dan der tsumandor rekin zi chumala ya chocheba majera donan temachanda nimons." So if we think carefully, properly think carefully, we should really work hard to get out from this samsara, to destroy these enemies, enemy of afflicted emotions. Because everything that they're doing is things that we don't want, things that we don't like, things that we hate. So why don't we try to get out of this? If there is a little problem, for example, if there's a little problem, if you have a bad neighbor that is bothering you all the time, letting their pets walk into your house whenever it's a bad time, and they're stealing things, we work hard to get out of this neighborhood. If you have a neighbor like that, and we are ready to do anything to solve that problem. Yet all our neighbors of afflictive emotions, they are giving us so much suffering. So when you compare to our ordinary neighbors, the problems are nothing. But we are working so hard to get out of this, but we are not doing anything to get out of this. Our ultimate enemy, he says, that is also stupid. So if you have a bad neighbors, sometimes even hard to sleep. You're thinking about how to get out of this neighborhood or how to fight and how to destroy. But then these enemies of afflictive emotions is going to take you to endless suffering of samsara, yet we're not thinking about anything. We're still enjoying. We try to please them as much as possible. The verse number 37, Ranjin Chiwe Donga Chubu Nyumonta, Yongor da Chineji Yombranda, Ranjin Chungji Pubu Donga Chies, Donga Chubas. Proud, but what is wretched? You read that as wretched?
Yeah.
Wretched.
What is a wretch?
Wretched. Really like down and out.
So very, very poor and,
In despair.
Someone
Someone
who's
might
in
despair.
despair.
Unfortunate state.
someone might call Jeremy the street person wretched. It would be mean, but someone might call him that. This translation is using Old English that is not commonly used these days.
I don't know how to put it. You understand the translation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who are the proud and wretched rivals? Are those the afflictive emotions?
Yes.
Or the people that suffer from them?
So when you go for war, so you will be beaten or you will be shot, stopping, right? But still, we go and do it because of our afflictive emotions, our negative emotions. I don't know. Careless of the pain.
It sounds like if you're almost dead and dying, you'll still keep fighting.
Cut and thrust is used in as a phrase in sword fighting.
Okay, leave this. Go to next. The verse number 37, and I have to think about it.
I think cut and thrust might imply like being like backstabbed, or like if someone stabs you or cuts you, like emotionally, you know how we say, oh, it feels like I got stabbed by this person. because cut and thrust is definitely what you do when you're sword fighting.
Okay. Ta donga kwenji jurchu baranji darni yomchen dalare donga jata jurjur kamgi jen yiche jilo munjur michi guyus. So, okay, look at the next one. The verse number 38. So now, the verse number 38 is now it's saying that we have to apply antidote to destroy these negative emotions, our worst enemies. So in order to do that, it's not easy to, for example, when we look at Milarepa, he gave up everything. He has nothing. He went to retreat cave. There's no food, no clothing. So no friends. So when we really actually to destroy these negative emotions, sometimes we have to go through hardships, difficulties, you know. But because we afraid of those antidote more than the actual enemy, so that's the problem, right? So in order to destroy this, our ultimate enemy, we have to be ready to be hungry, we have to be ready to be poor, you know, we have to sacrifice certain things. Temi daya maso teba yang lula jindan dawa sese no tenkin drapsa yanda tenjaba dala thonga. And then when you look at the verse number 39, so all those pain and suffering that we have to go through to destroy our ultimate enemy, is actually important, you know. They are, how do you say, it says here, sometimes in our ordinary world, you know, we have anger and hatred and desire and so on. So sometimes some people, let's say if you have a fight with somebody and they cut your arm here, you know, big mark here. Sometimes the people use that as a jewelry, you know what I mean? Yeah. Look at me, how brave I am, you know. Yeah, if I am somebody who can take like this, I can do for other people. So you'll be, what, how do you call it? Don't mess with me. Yeah, people do things like that. Just to fulfill their pride, their anger, you know. But the hardships that we are facing with, when we destroy our afflictive emotions, even like those meaningless, stupid thing you use as your decoration, you know. So that means, like Milarepa, he said, Re Bujye means he be a child of a mountain, wearing clothing of a mist, yeah, Jong Togitam Sam Nokor, you know, Ray Puche, now in Jiguchin, Jong Togitam Sam Nokor. I mean, he is like proud of how he lived, you know. So when you look at his life story, and when he was meditating in a cave, his sister, Peta, her name is Peta, and she saw him, Milarepa was doing like almost nakedly meditating. His body is so, you know, so thin, so, I don't know how to describe. And then she was so sad. And she said, it's okay if you want to be a real practitioner, but can you be a little better practitioner? There I have seen there are some masters who travel with so many horses, so many attendants, retinues, and parasols at the top. You know, you don't have to be desperate practitioner like that. Now how can I show my face in the public if you are so desperate like this? Only my only brother. And then Milarepa says, those who are traveling with so many retinues and parasols and sitting on a horse or elephant, they're not real genuine practitioner. He says, maybe people like you look at me, you think I am very desperate. But when the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, in their wisdom, from 10 directions, they will see I am the most powerful warrior, you know, person. So therefore, I don't feel the same way as you do. So why Milarepa is doing this, all those things? Challenging his anger, his hatred, his desire, his jealousy, you know, his ignorance. He's ready to give up all his mundane activities, mundane pleasures, mundane comforts, you know. But doesn't mean everybody have to do what he did. Of course, there are different levels of sentient being, have different capacity, different abilities. And each one of us have our own, you know, capacity, ability we can do with that. Not everybody is like a Milarepa, we can go to cave and give up everything. But more important is, it's in our mind. basically everything will come back into our mind. Even if you live like a king, if you don't have a desire inside, if you don't have a hatred, if you don't have a anger, if you don't have a jealousy, that doesn't really matter, you know. There are great practitioners who live like a king, but yet they are ready to face anything that happens, because the samsara or the world is really nothing. There's nothing that you can completely rely on. Everything is possible. You know, Nagarjuna said, if emptiness is possible, everything is possible. Means it is possible for you to be Buddha tomorrow, or if it's possible to you to be the most powerful person next moment, next life, next year, or richest person in the world, you know. You could be win $35 million 649 tomorrow, and then you end up living in a palace. Or when you go home and everything is taken, you have nothing, nowhere to go, and you have to sleep under the bridge. So everything is possible. So when those practitioners, they have that readiness in their mind. If somebody says you have to be the owner of the whole world tomorrow, no problem, they're ready to take it. But then next day somebody else come and give back, you're ready to give away, you know. So practitioners have to have some sort of this readiness, means understanding everything is possible, you know. Everything is subject to change, nothing is truly exist, and everything is coming from cause and conditions. So that can be anything, anytime, anywhere. Okay. So verse number where are we? Which verse?
40?
Oh, 39. Okay, now 40, yeah. Nyapa dorpa shimba la sopa, rangu tsuwa tsamchi. Simba yang, zhang tang, ca tang, sopa nezu, droa desa dalachi mezu. So these difficulties that we have to face in the practice of the Dharma are nothing, it says. For ordinary living, we have to go through so much difficulties. It says, nyapa, like fishers. And they have to, you know, stay days and days by the water, waiting for fish to come. But now people do it for pleasure. But before, a lot of times people do it for food, you know. If they don't get some fish, they have nothing to eat. No food to feed for their family, no choice. They have to wait, no matter whether it's cold or hot. And also in hunters, you know, if they can't kill some wild animals, no food for their house, you know, home, children. Sometimes, you know, the other hunters kill them. They lose their lives, but still, they have to sacrifice so many risks. Not only that, here, you know, people have to work so hard. Get up early in the morning, you know, you can't even miss one bus. If you're late 1 hour, your boss will kick you out. So then you have no hope for next 6 months. You already used up your unemployment insurance. You know, the government is denying your social assistant. You know, so much problems. Everybody, you know. So, but still, we do all these things. You know, every day, work, have to fight. Boss will blame you every day, but still you have to act like you didn't hear anything, even though you don't like it, you know. You don't want to lose your job, you can't say anything back. There are lots of problems, even just to survive this very little body and this very little family, you know, we have to go through so much. We have to bear with a lot of cold, hot, heat, you know, getting up early in the morning and walking in the snow with the freezing minus 35. It's not easy, you know. Like in Tibet, when I was a little boy, I had to go after animals. So I had only one pair of shoes and one pair of socks. The socks is made of wool, you know, so it's warm. But when there's snows, when you come home in the evening, your shoes is completely wet. Your heavy, thick woolen socks is wet, you know. So when you take off together, you know. But when you get up in the morning, they're both frozen, you know. Because no heating in a home. So now you have to take that to your stove, you know, you wait to warm up, you know. So a lot of difficulties that we have to go through, you know. So now it's saying is so these pain that we are going through during our practice, we are not doing that only for ourselves. We're not doing this only for ourselves to free from samsara and suffering, but we're doing that for all sentient beings, countless sentient beings. So it's nothing. The result is a huge different. So therefore you should be ready to be patient for such a small hardships for the practice the Dharma. So then the 41, verse 41, it says, so when you take Bodhisattva vow, it's saying that I am going to take a Bodhisattva vow and I'm going to benefit countless sentient beings free from suffering. Yet, if you yourself are not being able to reduce your afflicted emotions, anger, hatred, and jealousy, then it's a problem. You're telling other people or trying to do so many things for other people, yet your own anger, hatred, desire is still there. So what it is saying is that when you promise such a huge thing to do for others, and you have to be able to, you have to be able to utilize for yourself. If you are not being able to reduce your anger, hatred, and jealousy, then basically when you tell other people or other beings that you're going to do such a thing, it's nothing but lies, you know. If you don't know yourself that much, then shouldn't be so... Big mouth is not right word, right? Not big mouth. Huh? Preach, yeah. Not too much blub blub. Eh? So therefore, you should also, instead of looking always outside and trying to find other people's faults and mistakes to picking it up, we should turn around and to see every day as a result of practice how much negativities that you are being able to reduce. And you should measure it, and every time you should see the less anger, less hatred, less jealousy, less greedy, less attachment. If this is not happening, the practice might not be happening. Maybe if it's only, if that's not happening, maybe it's only lip service. So the best way to test your practice, whether it's working or not, is testing yourself. You know yourself more than anybody else. Our whole purpose of practice the Dharma is we have, of course, in Buddhist practice, there's so many varieties, so many ways of practicing Dharma. There's so many steps, there's so many precepts, so many vows that you can take. At the end, basically it's just to destroy our own emotions, negative emotions. Comes to these three poisons: ignorance, hatred, anger, or desire. So the whole purpose of practice, and no matter whether you're Mahayana, Vajrayana, Theravadin, or just meditating, the whole purpose of doing this is to reduce. And then you will see, the more we reduce our negative emotions, automatically we will be happier and happier, because the biggest problem that makes not being happy is reflective emotions, right? The anger is the biggest thing that to block your happiness, and then desire and attachment, that lack of containment, that you always wanting things, unlimitedly. So then ignorance, of course, not knowing what is the right thing, not knowing what is the wrong thing that you should avoid. All those three main things are always a problem, and they are blocking our happiness and in creating all these problems. As long as if you have these things, they will always one way or another create problems within yourself, within your family, community, and everywhere, So when we look at the world and whole, all the wars that are happening is out of anger and out of jealousy, out of competition. And all those natural disasters that are happening is actually out of desire, attachment, because people always want, right? So we want so much, that's why we took so much, almost like nothing left. So the world is what do you call, collapsing, That's because we did not look at the reality. The reality, the earth, is very limited, and then human desire is unlimited. So unlimited desire used up everything from the limitless exist. So now all these problems, And then between, of course, the ignorance is always there, not knowing what is they're supposed to do and what things we're not supposed to do, and messing up. So all the problems. So basically, not only if we don't talk about the next life, enlightenment, but if we look at this moment, it is very important to reduce these three poisons. Very, very important. Like even for our individual's level of happiness, the more we reduce our negative emotions, reflective emotions, we are basically being happier and happier. The more you increase them, we are unhappier and unhappier. We know that every time we have anger arises, so much pain and hatred, unhappy, unpleasant in our mind. So then, of course, that will affect our physical conditions too. So, a lot of sick people, when they get upset often and often, and then they get worse and worse. Sometimes even sudden disease and illness, if you are being able to keep calm and happy, sometimes the disease disappear. I have heard some cancer patients. Some people had a cancer for a long time, but you haven't felt that. As soon as doctor says you have cancer, then you shh. But then some people manage to keep happy, go for vacations, enjoy, and then disappear. So basically our physical condition and our mental, it's very, very, very connected. So if one have a problem, and that will lead to another. If your mental state has a very pleasant, happy, and that will also help you for your physical well-being as well. So anyways, the next verse is Dec7 LT 43. Is it 43? Yes. Number 10. So next one is how we destroy our enemies. Our enemy or of afflictive emotions. So in this case, what we have to have is we have to use the antidote to destroy them. So we have to attach to the antidote and then use this antidote to destroy. Here's a coin to zone. Number 10 Burjams. Matos. So here it says your enemy, the afflictive emotions are your enemy. And then we have antidotes. These are our friends. We have to let our antidotes and our enemy fight. And then we have to help our antidote to win over our enemies. So we have to train our antidote. We have to develop, we have support so that it can destroy our enemies. Dana sek te sejoram dagan go cheja lai number kan nyum bedala du parmazao. So this enemy, it's much worse than our real life enemies, because our real life enemy, the only thing, the worst this enemy can do is kill us. If you have a good practice in this lifetime, even if you're killed by somebody, you will be born in better, maybe even better realm. But by killing of your enemy, by killing by your enemy doesn't mean you were born in lower realms. So that means if you are killed by somebody, it's not a big deal. We have to die anyways, sooner or later. That's just one of the ways of our death. Nobody can avoid death. Some people die very young. Some people live long. Some people live long but very unhealthy. Some people live enough, healthily, and then die. Somehow, one way or another, everybody have to die. So this will be just one of the ways of our death. It's no big deal. But if you lose over your afflictive emotion enemy, then you will be in samsara, the lower realms, hell, hungry ghost, animal, some unbearable suffering for countless eons. So therefore we should apply antidote right away to destroy them instead of busy fighting with our ordinary enemies. So then we have to know again, where is our enemy? He live. The biggest our enemies live in our heart, enjoying Our heart is our enemy's palace. So we are the servant. We have to listen to everything our enemy said, whether you like or not. Most of the time we enjoy serving our enemies. So we sacrifice so much doing this. The next one is verse number 45. So our ordinary enemy, if you fight, destroy your enemy, I mean, you kick out your enemy and then and then you think you won over enemy, but maybe your enemy or his or her relatives went to somewhere else, then slowly built their gang and come back and you can destroy you. But our ultimate enemy, these afflictive enemies, when you destroy them, we don't use weapons, we don't use any other power other than the truth, the practice, the dharma, the compassion. When the compassion, bodhicitta, destroys our afflictive enemy, they cannot go anywhere and they cannot build their gang anywhere and they won't be able to come back and destroy. If you destroy them once, forever destroyed. But our temporary enemies, if you destroy them once, they'll destroy you again at some time in the future. So once you destroy your ultimate enemy, you're insured, that they're completely gone. Mumong shirab megipang dai le sam kanto drawer jor kanto nene nuzi sasar. So now, the best way of destroy our enemy is using our wisdom. So basically, the enemy, our afflictive enemies, they are also non-existent, just as any other phenomena in this world. And Lord Buddha said, from the enlightened, from the highest enlightened to the lowest point of lower realms, all non-existent. Everything is interdependent, everything is emptiness, so therefore nothing is exist. So outer world is not exist, even though they appear as exist, but their reality is completely different than the appearances. So we see different appearances until we realize that their ultimate nature. Until we realize the ultimate nature, the appearances works the way it appears. But when we realized their nature, and then they won't work the way it appears anymore, because then their real nature is not the way it appears. So similarly, our wisdom has to see that our anger has no base, and our anger doesn't come from anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. It just appears from certain temporary unnecessary cause and conditions and creates so much problem and then disappear. So the way to destroy is whenever they arises, like whether it's anger or hatred and jealousy, it says we just have to look at the actual anger and realize or see it didn't come from anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere, it has no base. It's like, more like a hallucination. Hallucination, maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a rainbow, you know. When you look at rainbow, let's say when you see a rainbow, for me it appears like the green part of the rainbow color is more obvious. For somebody else, maybe it's a red, and then we can fight over it. I say, no, there's more green. And then somebody else says, no, definitely there's more red. But what is a reality? Maybe 15 people can see 15 different rainbows on the same object. But who is right and who is wrong? Nobody is right and nobody is wrong. Yet we can use that as, base to fight. So similarly, all our negative emotions are like that, The reality, ultimately, none of them exist. It's like a dream, The dream is the best way to explain the emptiness. Because when you're dreaming and everything seems real, when you're dreaming, you're meeting friends, you're having dinner, you're going to party, and you're doing pujas, and somebody telling you something bad, and you're upset, and until you wake up, it's real. But from the dream perspective, it is real. Nobody can deny that. But the how you figure out it's not exist, it's not real, is you have to wake up. Until you wake up, you cannot realize that it's a dreaming. Although there are some practices that in Buddhism, dream yoga, Dream yoga means you look at the dream. And when you're dreaming, and then now you see you're dreaming. Then you enjoy. Then you can play with the dream. But ordinary people, the regular people, we cannot play with the dream. Dream is more powerful than, right? So we have to follow whatever our dream says. But when you wake up, no matter how horrible it is, it's all gone. No matter how wonderful it is, you cannot take anything from that. Similarly, we are in a dreaming here, dreaming in a reality world of samsara, that we are so confused with all those things. And everything that we see, everything that we feel, we think it's real. We obsess, we attach. But those who are enlightened, it's not real. Like Milarepa, when he realized emptiness, he can travel through the mountains. And the great yogi, Drogpa Kunlik, he can pull the sun back, make a day longer, or speed, a day shorter. And then Milarepa, he can fly, he can go through the mountains. Why? For him, it's a dream, and he is dreaming, and he realized the dream. Okay. So we have Shanti Deva is one of the great master, an Indian master. He wrote a text, the Madhyamika text, one of the most text that the most of the Buddhist people use it. So he wrote the text, and then at the end, at conclusion, he says it's written by Shanti Deva, somebody who milk from the painting cow, painting cow, painted cow. If there is a painted cow on the wall, he can milk it. For him, it's the same. Okay, so next one is 47. So again, it's saying that when we use our wisdom to see, to destroy our afflicted emotions, when we look at them, we don't see anywhere. They don't sit anywhere. They don't sit outside of our house, inside of our house. They don't sit in our body, outside of our body, inside the body. They're nowhere. They don't have any base. They're like an illusion. But unnecessarily they are creating cause and conditions to be born, to us born in the lower realms, in hell, a hungry ghost, an animal. So what we have to see is all those things arises from certain temporary unnecessary cause and conditions. So you have, when they arises, we have to look at it and see it. They are not exist. They are nothing. You know, nothing but illusion. So the next verse is 48. Is the conclusion of the chapter, and abbreviation of the chapter. As I say, always there is abbreviation sentence at the beginning and abbreviation sentence at the end. So this one would be the abbreviation at the end. Tetara namsam chike hipai lapa drobechedum bebarcha. Member ma manina menta gugene basoba kale. So it says in the whole chapter it explains how important to have what you call this carefulness for everything that we do, or physically, mentally, emotionally, everything that we do, we have to be careful. We have to see whenever these negative emotions arises, we have to destroy them, and we have to see whenever our positive actions, attitude arises, we have to enforce. I mean, we have to, increase them and develop them. So basically, so basically, the three principles, three hlapa means ethics, disciplines, moral discipline. Tutim means vows. Hirap means wisdom. Teninzin means concentration. So those three things, three principal things, are the practices that we have to do. So in order to do that, in order to practice that, what we have to do, the Buddha is the teacher who is like our doctor. We are the sick people, and the Buddha is the doctor, and the Dharma is the medicine. So then, even if Buddha gives us the best medicine of the Dharma, and we eat, but there are still, if we are not careful, there are lots of things that we have to follow. Doctor's advice. We have to keep all these disciplines, whatever vows and precepts that you have taken, you have to keep them, and you can't just do whatever you want. For example, even if your doctor give you the best medicine for your illness, and then if you're eating things that you're not supposed to eat, and if you're doing if when doctor tells you to keep warm your body, and you walking outside with not enough clothes, doesn't matter. Doctor give you the best medicine. Still, if we don't follow all these rules and regulations, the necessary regulations, they won't help. Wasting your money, medicine, wasting doctor's time and doctor's hard work. So this is all the other conditions, like proper diet, proper exercise. The doctor and medicine, only doctor and medicine doesn't solve all problems. there are a lot of other things. So anyway, now we have complete this 48th verse of 4th chapter. So time is over. So we do the dedication prayer. No time for ask questions. Maybe next time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you, Mama.